Welcome to the Inspire RoundTable Show, where we delve into inspirational discussions, tips, and advice from a diverse array of industry experts, professionals, and forward thinkers. Our mission is to help you solve real problems, overcome chaotic situations, and put you on a better path towards a more fulfilling work-life balance. Learn from the insights and experiences of our esteemed guests and explore a wide range of topics from career development to personal growth, all with the aim of empowering you to navigate the challenges of modern life and achieve a greater sense of purpose and satisfaction. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired. Let's embark on this journey together and discover the tools and strategies that can help you unlock your full potential. It's time you work to live, not live to work. The Inspire RoundTable Show starts now.
Welcome. Good morning, everybody. It is another bright and sunny day. It is Friday, so everybody you've got to have that energy for the weekend. Today on the Inspire RoundTable Show, we are going to talk about decluttering your mindset. And our panel is going to give you some really great insights into how you can take this month of March and really spring clean yourself. So let's dive right in. And let's talk about decluttering your mindset. Good morning, everybody.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
It is so good to hear you guys and to see you guys again. I absolutely love spending my first week of every month with you guys, and especially on a Friday. I'm so glad we moved to Fridays.
Right?
Friday always works out great for me. So let's dive in and talk about decluttering your mindset and really giving some of our audience some great tips this month. So who would like to start?
Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and jump in. Good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Well, Kat, this was a really, really good topic because I think everyone has dealt with some type of form of clutter. So the decluttering of the mind is like a huge, huge thing. I shared back in December that going into 2025 would be my year, my one word. And I don't always have a one word, but my one word that I kept hearing over and over was alignment. So when I think about decluttering our minds, to me personally, and this could, maybe you could connect with this as well, it is about alignment. And when I think about decluttering, what are we really doing when we declutter a space? When we're throwing out things that we're no longer using, we're throwing out things that, they're not needed, so we give them away. So we're actually creating room. So I began to really think deeply about the decluttering our mind as it relates to making room or creating more room and space. And what are the things, as we think about decluttering our mind, decluttering our lives, that we're creating space for? So I not only kind of delved into the mental aspect, but also the other major aspects of our lives when it comes to alignment, which for me personally means decluttering everything that's not aligned to where I am now, whether that be spiritually, whether that be physically, whether that be relationally, financially, with my work and profession. So the question is, when you're decluttering your mind, I want you to ask yourself, as I'm thinking about what's occupying my mental space, what's occupying my heart space,
Right.
what do I want to create more room for? Because that will help you kind of sort out what needs to stay and what needs to go. So when we talk about the mind or the mental space, I know that there are so many things that are happening in our lives with regard to work, personal relationships. So thinking deeply about what is occupying your mental space. What is it? Worry? When we talk about decluttering the mind, what are the things that we are consumed by and thinking about the most? Is it worry? Is it anxiousness about something? Is it fear about something? Maybe fear, about the next move, or maybe some self-doubt if you're trying to start a business or you want to try something new, but you're having this fear and this self-doubt come up. There also could be some other things like worry. You can have some unforgiveness. You can have some bitterness. So when we're thinking about the head space, we're also thinking about the heart space, because what's happening on the inside of here is going to float up. It's going to be things that are really concerning us. So that decluttering for me is about creating room, but also looking at what's currently occupying that mental space, that head space, that heart space, that I need to take a deeper look at so that I can begin to process it and then say, okay, if I don't want to be in a place of self-doubt when it comes to decluttering the mind and the heart space, then what do I need to replace that with? I need to replace it with and create room for confidence. Confidence in my ability to try something new, or to go for that particular job, or to express interest in that person if I'm interested in connecting with them for a relationship, or just processing in different ways. So those are kind of the things dealing with the mental. And also, what can affect our mental or decluttering our mind is I started thinking about, even personally and with business, professionally, we're living in the age of social media, right? We're
Right.
on the internet, we're on all of these different platforms. And are those platforms serving us? Are they aligned with what we want to manifest and see for ourselves? Are they helping us to grow? When I think about the pages I'm following or the people I'm following, are they adding to my life, or is it creating more noise and clutter? One thing, I know that social media and the internet, this platform is a beautiful space to share, but I know that I have to have some boundaries personally for myself in terms of how much I'm consuming, what types of content I'm consuming, and also how long I'm consuming that content. So when we're talking about decluttering the mind, heart space, and creating more room for things that are adding to our lives and increasing our sense of peace and calm, our nervous systems, and making sure that stays intact, we also have to look at that consumption of our social media as well, because there's a lot of toxicity that's out there. And do we really want to do the back and forth with people on these channels? Or do we want to say, I don't have to comment. If I see something that I like, I can scroll on by it, and then I need to take a break when that calls for that, for our eyes, and what we're consuming, to take a break from it. So even with business, I'm thinking reassessing what platforms I'm on in business. Is this platform necessary? Is it aligned with who I am and the content and what I am offering to people in terms of transformational coaching and relationship coaching and positivity and all types of resources and tools. So I try not to be on a lot of different platforms when it comes to that. And then I want to also talk about the last things, physical space and your personal energetic space. We don't tend to think that those things are connected to our decluttering of our mind. But when you're walking into your home, is it a place that you find inviting? What is the feeling that you get when you look around at your space, whether it's the living room, your kitchen, bedroom, spare rooms, your garage, even, because that could be a big place for clutter that causes a lot of mental stress and anxiety.
You're not going to talk about my garage.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I've been there and done that. But once you get it clean and organized, it's like you can breathe. And we don't realize that our homes are actually our containers for our sense of peace, our sense of being, and also just not physically, but all of those things tied together. So is your space decluttered? Because that will help you. And then the last thing that I want to touch upon is our energetic space. When we're traveling and interacting with a lot of people, if we're in a really stressful work situation where there's a lot of, whatever office type of stuff going on, and then you come home to your space and your space is cluttered, for instance, okay, that's even more. But if your space is clear and it's clean and you can breathe and it feels harmonious and peaceful to you, but you're still carrying that residue of all of the things that and people that you've encountered. So I do encourage you to just take some time to have personal rituals to declutter your energetic space. Do you light candles? Do you take warm baths and do cleansing? Your favorite lotions or aftershave or whatever it is that you do that makes you feel rejuvenated after being exposed in these elements, so to speak, and a lot of energy, and then just being able to even declutter your energetic space, which really helps your mind. A warm bath or a hot shower before bed is like my jam, y'all.
Right.
I do the lathering, I put on my perfumes and lotions, I spray my sheets. I have a whole nighttime ritual. I make sure my kitchen's clean, my space is clean, so that when I unfold those sheets on that bedspread or that comforter on the bed and I get tucked in, I am sleeping so peacefully because I've cleared out all of the clutter of energy for the day. So those are great.
Those are great tips. In fact, I'm just, going to wrap that up by saying any relationship that's with Charisse better smell good. That's all.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
But and you make good points because especially like the shower type thing and being able to just calm yourself. However, I'm kind of curious to know, Brian, how do Charisse brings really great points, but we can't just jump in the shower and kind of rinse all that toxicity off when we're at work, right? I mean, some of us could probably be like, if you have a gym in your facility, Google, thank you. But if you have a gym in your facility, maybe you could, but most of those companies can't. Brian, how do we take that day and say, okay, I've got to clean this or my space? How do we work on that?
Well, Charisse had a good point of what's occupying your mind. And a quote that was told me years ago that I try to remind myself all the time is, a mind once expanded by a new idea never regains its original shape or dimension. So if we're willing to expand our mind a little bit, and I try to remind myself, okay, what I'm thinking might not be what my coworker's thinking, but we've got to coincide in the same workspace, and we've all been there. At least I spent a lot of time in the corporate world, and I had various toxicity moments and various ways of feeling good about where I work and not so good where I work. So I some of the things that help me, little breadcrumbs and from my leaders and my coworkers and so on. So if you're in a space right now where you're not feeling like you want to be there and it's not the most pleasant place to be, maybe a couple of things that help me out. And I've got 6 things. It seems like everything I talk about is 6 things, but PG3 model, 6 things, and 7's way too much, and 5 just is not enough, apparently. So one of the things is leading by example. And I talk to individual contributors. I talk to a lot of leaders. And leading by example, exemplifying, if you're in that workspace that's toxic and you're trying to clean it up, you got to start with yourself. You got to lead by example. At least that works for me. Right. If I want to have a better workspace, I need to start with Brian. Am I adding to that toxic workspace, or am I trying to alleviate some of that toxicity in the workspace? So it needs to start with me, regardless if you're the CEO or the entry level, whatever workplace you're in, if it's 5,000 people or 5, or it's just you. If you're adding to that toxic culture, look at yourself in the mirror. That's the first thing, lead by example. The second thing is getting a level set. And level set meaning if you're the leader, you got to find out what's going on and what are the challenges, what are the problems, what are the issues. Not only is it from a goal standpoint, but people are running this business and running your office where you're at. So if you're the leader, you need to find out what's going on, whether that's a survey, a one-on-one, a meeting. But we want to make sure that you can get the answers of what the challenges are, because you can't work on something that's toxic if you don't know what it is. So you've got to find out what it is. And anonymous surveys are always nice, because you're going to get a different answer from a one-on-one or a team meeting, because not everybody's comfortable sharing what's wrong with the company, right, or what's toxic in the environment in front of everybody else. So make sure you have that open door policy. The third thing is communication. I'm a big glass half full and a glass half empty. And whatever toxic environment, like I said, you got to start with lead by example, but I always lead by positive outlooks. And it's not, every day is not rainbows and unicorns. I get it. But if I can look at something in a certain way, perspective that's going to help my coworkers, going to help me, then I try to do it the best I can. That's going to help alleviate that toxic workspace. So lead by example, level set, communication. Am I communicating on a positive way every single day? The fourth thing is development. If I'm a leader, I've got to make darn sure that I'm giving the people that I'm honored to lead the ability to develop themselves, because it's nothing worse than feeling stuck in a position that may or may not want to be for the rest of your life. And maybe it's something I want to do over here, or just hone my craft or sharpen my skills a little bit. And if you're not the leader, then the monkey's on your back to tell your leader, this is what I want to do, because that's going to help alleviate some of that toxic workplace. That if you feel that you can expand your horizons a little bit, that's going to make you feel better. That's going to make you feel more half full glass versus, oh, I've got to go into this toxic workplace because heck, I got to do that same job over and over. So that's the fourth thing, development. The fifth thing is recognition. I always make sure that if I was the leader or if I'm the individual contributor, that I'm recognizing people that I work with. That's going to, 2 words that people like to hear is thank you. So thank you for everything that you're doing each and every day. I started something called Thank You Thursdays. So thank you for what we do. Thank you for everything you do, and so on. So if we can, as a leader, individual contributor, that's going to alleviate some of that toxic workplace. And just little thank yous along the way are going to make a difference. Chipping away at, we're not going to solve all the ills of the office problems if you have a toxic workplace. But if you can chip away at it with a lot of thank yous and gratitude, and making sure that everybody feels good a little bit, that's going to help. Not everybody's going to respond to that, but if you can do your little part, that helps. At least it helped me. And the last thing, if you're counting at home, that's number 6, consistency. Whether it's meetings, whether it's your Thank You Thursdays, whether it's asking for development opportunities or giving development opportunities, consistency. Because nothing's worse than finding out you have a problem 6 months down the line and a toxic workplace is built up. It's like working out. We talked about working out a little earlier. You're not going to be where you want to be overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to take consistency, and it's going to take chipping away at it. And the more Thank You Thursdays or Wonderful Wednesdays or Feedback Fridays or whatever you come up with, your workplace is going to chip away at that toxicity, and it's going to make you happier, and it's going to make the people that you work with even more happy.
I love it. I mean, it really is something I think that is, we talk about in previous episodes, we've talked about how things are contagious. So, and I love your thank you Thursdays because I see them every Thursday, and I absolutely love them. So I think that is a very consistent thing to have. So I love those 6 tips. Talking about Sharice's relationships and Brian talking about your communication aspect in this really leads up to what I want to bring Nova to bring to the table, because it's very difficult when we have communication and relationship issues. Okay, we talk about how a lot of people have anxiety with communicating, right?
Mm.
That's and Brian, you had mentioned this where you had said a lot of, if we're anonymous, you'll get more feedback on that, right? Because people have communication issues. They don't want to kind of be the face of something. They just kind of want to give their opinion and then step back. We notice this on social media too. People will lurk. They will lurk. They will sit there. They'll like it, but they won't comment because they don't want a face to that comment. They don't want that. So, Nova, how do we, defeat this anxiety between relationships and communication? Because I know from your perspective and working a lot with autism advocacy, neurodivergency, of course, has different ways, or the pathways of thinking, that your coworker does not think like you, and they may not communicate like you. How do we address that in both home and workforce?
For sure. I think sort of riding off of what Sharice and Brian had mentioned was it all comes down to what's occupying your mind, and being able to address the things that are occupying your mind. Because it's important that not just we learn how to, you know, face these, but we learn how to challenge what's on our mind, right? Because that's addressing the root of that anxiety rather than, putting a band-aid on it and being like, oh, I'm just going to distract myself from this anxiety temporarily. Because when it comes down to it, we don't want a temporary solution, right? We want something that's going to stick. We want something that we can turn to as a resource or a tactic that we can stick to, and it'll consistently help us through that. Because anxious thoughts and anxiety itself isn't something that will go away forever. When you're happy, it's still going to happen. When you're doing great in life, it's still going to happen. So what we can do is learn how to figure out how to use coping skills to address those thoughts, to better cope with those thoughts, and to challenge those thoughts. So I have a list as well. I don't have 6 points, but I do have 5 simple points. And I do have 5 simple points for people to use as ways to sort of declutter their negative thoughts, right? To challenge these thoughts, because again, it's important that we address them. So the first tip that I have is to indulge in your interests. And this is one that I'm super big on. Indulging in your interests when you're anxious or having anxious thoughts can really help calm you down. And one really important thing when you're anxious is to calm down, because when you're anxious, your mind isn't thinking straight, right? When I'm anxious, I'm thinking of a million different things at once. My brain is going 500 miles per hour. I need to step back and slow my roll. So what I do is I indulge in my interests, and indulging in my interests can help calm me down, whether that's something that I personally enjoy now or an old interest. Doing these can help sort of, get you in a happier state of mind, in a more positive mindset. If I'm feeling anxious or sad and I feel like, all my thoughts are racing and they're not being very positive, then I can sit down and, as an artist myself, I can say, oh, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do a piece of art, right? Since art is one of my interests. And that itself can, 1, be an outlet, but 2, also be something that calms me down and regathers my thoughts and bring me a sense of joy that can give me a more positive mindset after I'm done participating in that activity. My second tip is music. And I know Robert can attest to this, but music itself is very important, especially when it comes to mood. This is why we have people who decide the type of music that goes into commercials, movies, scenes in video games or TV shows. It's very important. Music is very important for your mood. It affects us very deeply. So I notice a lot of people will sort of gravitate towards music that they relate to in the moment. So when people are sad, they'll often listen to sad music because it's comforting to know that you feel that you're understood by others out there. However, it's important that we don't overindulge in that, because surrounding ourselves with that same mindset that we're currently in when it's negative or anxious or depressing can feed as fuel into those thoughts, and we're only going to put more energy into thinking that way, into believing those things that are on our mind. So when I'm feeling anxious, I like to turn on music that sort of challenges those thoughts. If I'm, thinking, I don't have any friends or that I'm unlikable, I like to listen to music that challenges that. I'll listen to songs that are about friendship or that are about appreciating the friends that you have, or that you are likable, or, that are about loving yourself regardless of if you have friends or not. And that listening to music like that, even if it isn't particularly true itself, like even if I say or think that, oh, I don't have friends, and even if that is true, while I'm listening to music that is about friendship and having friends and appreciating the friends that I have, I like to think of it as sort of preparing yourself for that, to receive that, mentally getting ready for that. I like to think of it as a way to get yourself in alignment with that, right, Charisse? It's like you have to get yourself in alignment to receive that. So if you're, anxious about something, and, say for instance, you're worried that you're not going to get the job that you applied for, or a position that you really, really want, or a promotion, and you're listening to songs about, oh, I'm a failure, oh, life doesn't work out, you're only going to attract that kind of energy because you're putting yourself in the mindset to do so. So when you're in that mindset of anxiousness or any sort of negativity, put yourself in a position where you're surrounding yourself with abundant positivity so you can be in preparation to receive what you want to receive. My third tip was favorite figure support. And I call it this because I like to say, for instance, I'm having a particular negative thought pattern, right? Let's say I think nobody likes me, right? I like to think,
That
I like to use this tactic as a way to challenge those thoughts, by taking a figure that I like, whether that's a fictional character, or in my mind, I'm thinking of, a public figure, or even an individual, like, say, for instance, a relative or like a friend. I like to challenge those thoughts by thinking of a figure and acting as though, or putting in my head as if I am having a conversation with that individual about that specific topic. Um, Now, one that I frequently use is sort of challenging my negative thoughts by acting as though I am presenting them to a favorite character, because I myself am deeply integrated in fandom culture and enjoying certain media. And that's what works for me. So say for instance, I'm having, the thought pattern of, oh, nobody likes me, so things aren't going to work out for me, blah, blah, blah. I like to think that I'm presenting it to preferably a favorite character. And that when I'm telling this favorite character, I will sort of get in their mindset and what they would respond to me with. And by doing this, it is a tactic to step outside your perspective and sort of challenge those thoughts from an outside way. Um, so say for instance, if I'm having that specific thought pattern, and I think of, my favorite character. Right now, my favorite character is a character from a web series named Balloon from Inanimate Insanity. So he himself, having gone through similar thought patterns, would likely react with empathy. He would, most likely respond with something along the lines of, I understand why you think like that. However, you have friends and family who care about you, who take care of you, and so forth. And I would be getting, an outside perspective from that standpoint. And not only that, but when it comes from a figure that you respect and that you admire, that feedback is more likely to stick with you. My next tip was grounding techniques. And this one also goes hand in hand with the fifth tip that I had, which is stimulation. But grounding techniques can be really important to sort of address the negative thought patterns in your head. Now, grounding techniques aren't always just meditation, right? There are different types of grounding techniques. One of them that I have been fairly acquainted with for a good amount of my life is one that one of my old therapists taught me, and that was focusing on 5 of your senses. And I know a lot of people tend to focus more on the anxiety of not being able to carry out successfully the grounding technique, and they get more fixated on trying to do so rather than the actual task of doing so. So when it gets to that point, I like to tell people, when you have a moment that you are aware that you're in, what is it about that makes you aware of the situation that you're in, right? Are you focusing on the excitement that you're experiencing? Is it making time feel like it's like taking a very long time because you're so excited that you're waiting for something specific? Or maybe it's being stuck in humidity and you're super exhausted and you're like, oh, I'm sweaty and this feels like forever. Is that something that you're more aware of the situation you're in? When you're aware of what helps you figure out how to focus on the moment that you're living in, take that and use that tactic as a way to ground yourself, right? It's the emotion you're experiencing or the sensation that you're experiencing. If you're, sweating or you're exhausted, is that tiredness what's making you feel more aware of the moment that you're in? And then another technique for grounding is stimulation, like I had mentioned earlier. Whether that's doing something, you have to sometimes stimulating ourselves can help with addressing negative thoughts, right? This is why we see people who are anxious will do things like getting up and cleaning, either working harder or helping take care of somebody else, because stimulating ourselves can help bring us into that moment and sort of calm ourselves down from the thoughts that are racing in our heads. I like to draw, like I mentioned earlier. So drawing might be my source of stimulation, right? It helps me come back to and calm down and sort of be able to address the negative thoughts in my mind once I'm calmer, once I'm able to step back, as well as sometimes it can just help, sort of act as like a force field against those negative thoughts, right? Sometimes the reason negative thoughts are stirring within us is because of the fact that we're not feeling stimulated enough. Understimulation is a source of anxiousness for me. But those are just a few of my tips on how to declutter negative thoughts based on, what's occupying your mind and how to address those.
I'm telling you right now, she was talking about me when it was cleaning.
See, I get that from you.
She was like, some of us just clean. Looks at me.
Hey, I get it. When I'm anxious, I start pacing around. And it's like what Cherie said earlier about, having to clean up your space when you're feeling cluttered. You already know this, but recently I've been sort of in a state where I'm like, oh, everything in my room feels so cluttered because the energy flowing through my room just does not feel right. Right. The setup of my room doesn't feel right. So now I'm like, okay, well, I need to rearrange it again. I do this like every year where I feel like once the energy in a room starts to pile up and it feels cluttered, I just have to clean. You just have to change things. You have to make things feel more open. Right. I completely get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is exactly how I am, and I think, and Heather knows best out of all of us on this panel, that the flow of energy really needs to be changed up sometimes. You really need to make those changes, and that includes the decluttering of the center of ourselves. Am I right, Heather? I mean, how do we fix that?
Oh my gosh. Well, if you realize that we have 60,000 thoughts a day and we're only aware of the ones that come up over and over. And so what happens is we've got a lot of those thoughts running on autopilot in the background. And when you realize that your outer reality, what we see in front of us, is nothing more than a mirror of what's going on in here in the mindset, that will tell you what's going on here. So if you are living in clutter, guess what's up here? Clutter. And so it's about pulling all of that out. And so we have so many things that we're all connected. And sometimes our thoughts are not ours. Working with all of y'all, you basically said a lot of this stuff that was already in my head. Like, we're all connected. So we're already pulling off each other's energy all the time. And so when you think about us, how all of these thoughts come in, the way that I do is like being very mindful, and there are things that you can do in the workplace that are simple. If you're at work and you are in a chaos, some things you might have to do is self-reflect and say, is this really what I want to do? And when you're running on autopilot, a lot of times we don't even stop and think, is this really what I want to do with myself? If you dread getting up in the morning, go find something else. Life is too short to live in agony. It's not about the 9 to 5. It's about finding things that you're good at that you can bring to the table. And so when you think about that, when you're running on autopilot, this is where mindfulness comes in, because then you're able to sit with yourself and sit with those thoughts, because we always have a lot of anxiety and fear because majority of us live in the past and we live in the future. We're never focused on the now. And sitting with our thoughts, being in mindfulness, whether it be, silent meditation, there's so many other ways, and I'm going to go over that. There's more than meditation than just sitting with yourself. The goal is to sit with yourself because that is where healing happens. But there are things that you can do to get you along the way. So when you stop worrying about the past, because we can't change it, we can't worry about the future because it hasn't happened yet. So when you live in the now, that's going to bring you into awareness, and then you can deal with what needs to be dealt with, because in the now space is where we make change. When we can think about the now, we're like, okay, why do I get up in the morning? Do I always drink coffee? I always go to work. I come home. Whether you do workout or watch TV, if you literally think about, most people will do it on a daily. It's a routine. Every single thing is done the exact same way. And so when you stop and go, okay, let me just question some things. And when you start questioning why do I go to work? Why do I drink coffee? Why do I eat snacks? Why do I tend to do this every day? Why do I not do these things? That's when you become an awareness. And so there are so many benefits of meditation, but it doesn't have to, again, be just sitting. Meditation comes in the form of, how many times do you drive down the road and you make it from point A to point B, and you're like, oh my gosh, did I stop at the stoplight? Did I stop at stop signs? You are in a form of meditation. And if you will actually learn to sit in that, you get a lot of wisdom that comes through in those drives. They are so beneficial. And I was going to the beach one time, and it's a 6-hour drive to get there. And my higher self came through and says, Heather, what are you thinking about right now? And I'm like, what do you mean? What am I thinking about? And I was looping on old stuff that didn't matter anymore. And so I was being taught at that moment, Be very conscious of your thoughts, because everything that I'm looping about became my outer reality. And just like Nova said, we attract what we think about. So if you're always thinking negative, you're going to keep attracting it. Why? Because it's there to be healed. Everything that happens out there is just a mere reflection of our healing. It's teaching us what we need to focus on within self. So some ways that you can do to kind of get in that peaceful state is do what makes you have fun. What do you love to do every day? A lot of people really enjoy nature, getting out in nature, not going for, I got to get steps in. I've got to do this for exercise. Pay attention to what God has provided. Like, we have nature. We have so many beautiful things out there to enjoy. You can take baths, just like Cherie says. Water is such a good way to connect in. Swimming, soaking, taking showers, relaxing the body. We are always in fight or flight with so much trauma. We don't know how to sit with ourselves and just be okay in the now, right? You can paint, you can write, you can dance. Those are ways of expression, and that's us raising our vibration. It allows us to connect in with our true self, and that's where a lot of the flow comes in. We get to express ourselves with those things. And then, of course, if you want to do guided meditation, a lot of my clients are like, I can't meditate because I have a monkey mind. Well, again, that's because you're thinking about the future and the past, and you're just like, right? So sitting with a guided meditation to start with something small. Don't go big, go 5 minutes, and then you start increasing, right? The goal is to get to where you can sit with self in silence. And again, start out with 5 minutes, because then you just start allowing the thoughts to go like a cloud. Just let them drift away. Don't judge yourself. It's like trying to reprimand a 2-year-old when they're in a tantrum. Don't do it. Right? Because that's the part of our mind called ego. So when you just allow those thoughts to just drift away like a cloud, if it's not meant for you, it won't come back. But if that thought keeps coming back and coming back, that's probably a signal. Maybe you need to work on that. And what better way to do it while you're in the silence? You can deal with it in the now space. Some benefits are it does relieve anxiety and depression when you are able to connect in. There's so much science behind meditation, just lowering your blood pressure. Just being able to relax and getting you in a state of mental calmness. Our nervous systems are shot with all the things, social media stimulant. We have TV. We have so many toxic relationships and jobs. We don't even realize we have a choice because we're like in a slumber. We think, oh, well, I have to do things. And when you wake up and realize I have a choice, I can do what I want to do, and therefore I can take action, that's where you're going to see some things. When you're in the workplace, a good way that I like to do, and I tell this to my clients, when they are so busy and they can't find time to just get away, excuse yourself to the bathroom. Everybody can have a bathroom break. Go to the bathroom, and while you're on the toilet, ground yourself. And the way that you can ground yourself, your thoughts are more powerful than anything. Imagine that you're growing roots at the bottom of your feet and just like send them down. Imagine that they're going down and wrap them around a rock. Just get yourself grounded. Take a few breaths of concentration and then relax into that moment. And then just connect in. Another really good way is a lot of breathing techniques, because we all have to breathe. And so activating your senses, like Nova was saying, pay attention. So as you breathe in, feel the cold air through your nostrils. Allow it to circulate. Start paying attention to how your chest rises and falls. You can pay attention to how when it releases, it's warm. You can just pay attention, even listening to the sound. You can activate all 5 senses from the breath that we do naturally. You don't have to buy that. So paying attention to that while you're in the bathroom, just taking a moment to separate yourself from all the chaos out here. And that will bring you back so that you can concentrate. So there's so many different ways that you can do it, but it's just about realizing that whatever's happening out there is just because what's going on in here. And so just like Brian was saying, you have to worry about self first. And when you pay attention to self, then everything else will change, because you can't change everybody else. That's not your job anyways. Your job is to worry about you. And when you reflect on you, that's when you start seeing the change out there.
Absolutely. And I think, Heather, when you and I had talked off screen, just you and I, that was one of the things that really got me, was that I did not know how to meditate. I could not, like, I had so many things going in my head. And as soon as I closed my eyes, like, just visions of everything I need to do, the lists of things just, kind of flood me. And I think that's common with a lot of people, that
Sure.
they, and what you mentioned with everything else going on. So really, you mentioned that there's so many different ways to meditate, so many different techniques that we can use, and to get that calm. So I want to really kind of link that into what Robert does, as well, and see, is music something we can actually utilize, or even just the sounds of of waterfalls or just the birds? Is that a method we can use to bring us into that meditative state, or to get us better at that technique?
Yes, definitely, Kat. I think, in the sense, we are so surrounded with our own thoughts and with sounds and noise. Sometimes we need to just declutter ourselves from all those things in general. And if you think you're listening to music, there's certain aspects in music that is programmed. If you think in the sense of having a drum kit or its drums, it has that rhythm that keeps on going. And sometimes, we need to break away from certain things that force us into a certain rhythm. I know, just from just by myself, with regards to, if I'm in a state of being very anxious or something, I don't want someone to hug me now. Like, I just need to, like, break away and kind of get through my own thoughts first. Or if I'm angry, don't calm me down now. I first need to process this first, because I don't want to be in that state of being calm, because I need to process this whole thought first. So sometimes we can use music or sounds to bring us to a certain state, or to work through a certain state, or to take us away from certain things. So that is what I want to look at. And I've been listening to some of the things that Heather said, and that Noah also mentioned, with with regards to guided meditation and things. Sometimes it's really good to have someone to help you through a certain stage or moment in your life. If we think, like, why sound therapy matters in that sense, we listen to activities and even looking at color and things, and sometimes sound becomes the soundtrack to that activity. But when we look at different frequencies and how it can impact our brain, what I call is, it's more like a attentive listening. Like, if you want to listen to a piece of music, and you follow the lyrics, and you think of, what is the flute doing, what is the violin doing, and you're actually focusing on that for a change, breaking down the other sensory things that might distract you, sometimes closing your eyes, or just being in a dark room or something, and just exposing yourself just to the sound, to kind of realign yourself with what you are thinking. Even silence can be something that could be overwhelming. I'll speak from a person that is extrovert. I like going to malls and seeing people and being interactive and talking to people, and that is like my reset button. I feel like, oh, now I'm around people and I feel energized. And some people might feel that it's the complete opposite. And now, being in a silent space, it's refreshing and recharging. But for me, initially, when I tried meditation, it was also a thing of, like, I'm speaking to myself. Should I be speaking? I shouldn't be speaking. I should be quiet. What am I doing? Am I doing it right? So, your thoughts start running away with yourself. So what I use music to do, in the sense of focusing, say, for instance, if I have to study for a big exam, I slide in my earphones, and I go for these binaural beats. So it's like it almost sounds like waves going. So there's a pattern going to it. And then softly I can put other music on top of it while that is like subconsciously playing in my ears, and it kind of gives me that calmness, or that feeling of something is happening, and I can just focus on what I'm seeing on the screen while I'm studying or while I'm reading. Some people might have different methods. I'm thinking if you're ready for a party or something, and you play your favorite makeup song or whatever, you have your song that gets the vibe going. Some people listen to calming music, or so I don't want to necessarily prescribe what you should be listening to, because each person has a different personality. Where sometimes when we want to align our feelings with what we are hearing. I'm feeling sad, I'm listening to sad music, so it helps me cope with that. And when someone else, thinking of the person that wrote the song, explains how they were going through the sad time in their life, it kind of makes me feel better, because I'm on the outside looking in, and it feels like I'm listening to this person's story, and it's therapeutic to me. But then sometimes also we don't want to dwell on that feeling of feeling hopeless or sad. We want to progress and listen to music that makes us feel happy. So maybe even thinking of something that and it was one of our podcasts that we spoke about the other day, Kat. Just reminding myself where a moment in my life where I felt like really happy, and there's something that reminded me. It was maybe an outfit that someone wore, a smell that I'm smelling, a sound that I'm hearing, and I felt really good. So those type of things triggers memories, and it's good to have that kind of in your toolbox to relive those things. So then again, combining things, feeling, visuals, and specifically like even textures. There's a reason why it feels good to go to the beach. It's taking off your shoes, putting your feet into the warm sand, or maybe the wet cold sand, and feeling the wind blow, but you're getting that of the ocean in the background, or the seagulls or something, or going into nature, lying on the grass. There's subtle sounds that we hear, and having those combinations. I was thinking, Clarissa was also mentioning about the like smells. There's a reason why they play calming music when you go for a massage. When I go to my barber's shop, they have a place called the Whisper Room, and it's the most amazing experience, because you go into this dark room and they wash your hair, and they play soft, gentle music, and they have the shampoo and conditioner that they use is mint infused. So you're feeling this tingly sensation in your hair, and you're smelling this mintiness, and you can just close your eyes, you can relax. And every now and then you'll hear someone whisper in your ear, it's like, is this warm enough or is this cold enough, when they're washing your hair. And then you get that massage, like the almost like Indian head massage type of thing that they do,
I
preparing
need
you
to
for
go to
your
South Africa for a haircut.
definitely.
That sounds dreamy right there. Dark room, water, massage,
Mint,
shampoo in the
uh-uh.
hair.
Trust me, I don't want to smell my barber.
I love that. I love that
So
description.
so all those type of things. So sometimes we need to move away from the combination of different sensory methods, and sometimes we need to combine them, in the sense of reassuring and assuring us of those positive notions, like the positive energy that we hear through our ears, see through our eyes, feeling through our skin, and also that we can also like taste. When we smell something, there's little droplets that fall on the back of our tongue, so there's a sense of taste also. I mean, that's why also we feel good when we have that lovely cappuccino, when we go to our barbers or to our hairdresser. You're experiencing everything at the same time. So if I need to bring like my session to a close in a way, so there's examples of things that we can do, even in our own home, like with white noise or nature sounds and things like that, we can do, and make sure that you have space or like time in your schedule for yourself. I'm even thinking, like, when you go to sleep, take that 5 minutes before the time, like when you've done everything that you needed to do, and you're just lying in bed and you're closing your eyes. Think of the whole process that you've done, and throughout the day, close your eyes and almost like guide yourself into sleep. being interactive with these sounds as well. Even when you sing or play an instrument and things, all those things kind of help to get our thoughts into the right direction. And so sometimes planning something is also good to you rather plan the clutter in a sense. You have the clutter space, and then you have something to release yourself from it. So planning is also a good thing.
I just kind of want to jump in here real quick, but you had a really great point about people wanting to listen to music that resonates with how they're feeling, and that's in tune with their energy at the moment. Because I also listen to music. I say this a lot, but I think it's quite funny how sometimes, like when I'm feeling really high energy and I need like a release, whether that's anger or excitement, I'll listen to music that's really loud and energetic in order to express it, to get it out of my system, to declutter my system, right? But like you said as well, it's important to sort of recognize when that's sort of affecting you, because and when to stop, because it's also important that we're not overindulging in that, because it can be overwhelming if we surround ourselves with a negative feeling that we're feeling and experiencing. But I just wanted to chime in on that, because absolutely.
I think we got a lot of great tips today. And honestly, I mean, we put these out for our audience, but I think everything that we've discussed today has really helped me in general as well. So I'm hoping that it helped our panelists. I mean, we're all experts in certain topics and subjects, and I've taken all of this in, and I think this month is something that I desperately need, and I think a lot of us need, because we are moving from this winter state of downtime and depression and cold. We're moving into the spring now. And this is a great time. And I say this calmly because I know on the other side of the world, it's a little bit different. We're moving into different states of seasons. And I think all of us need that recap, that enlightenment to move us into this new season. And I think all of these tips were great. You can actually go to, if you want to join our Discord, we will have our some extended VODs on there from our panelists. Also, join our website, and when you become a member, you'll get those extended VODs on there too. We will also be adding some downloadable wallpaper and music, so that you can download them and enjoy them on your time when you're not with us the first Fridays of every month. Before we go, because it was such so many different tips and so much information today, I do want to take just a couple of seconds to really wish somebody a happy birthday. So happy birthday, Nova.
She didn't know you were doing that, Kat. Happy birthday, Nova.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
So we hope that you have enjoyed our episode today. Head on over to our Discord and to our website, where you can get some more information, some more downloadable VODs, wallpaper, music, and you can really chat one-on-one with some of our panelists, as well as if you are interested in getting more information or doing a consultation with any of our panelists, please head over and send them an email right from our website as well, because I'll tell you what, every single person on this panel has helped me in some way. So I really appreciate having this panel every month. Any last words before we head out for the month of March? No, our panelists are worn out.
I don't have much to say.
They are ready to get their own decluttering on this month. So, all right. Well, we will see everybody next month for our April month discussion, and be ready to have your Kleenex available because we are going to talk about grief and loss. And grief and loss, of course, in several different aspects of our lives, not just on losing someone, as far as death, but also losing a job or losing a friendship or a relationship, or, just in general grief and loss. So be sure to join us next month. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.